Are you coming on board, or are you going to be left at the train station? Because whether you like it or not, Near Protocol and RNDR are about to take off, and I'm going to tell you a little dirty secret that they currently have that you might not know about that is going to cause some massive price movements very, very soon, hence why I'm buying. We're about to see some massive gains, and I hope you afford me the time today to explain to you why. My goal today is to teach you something new, so all I ask in return is if you learn something new and if you make an educated decision based on what I tell you, drop a like on this video. It really does help support all my work, but importantly, I want you to subscribe so that you can achieve your crypto goals. First things first, I want to address everyone down below asking, yes, I do hold NEAR tokens. No, I don't hold any render tokens. I almost purchased a whole bunch. I was waiting for a certain level for us to fall to. If we do fall down there, I will definitely buy some of these tokens. So I'm not here to shill you these projects. Whether you buy them, whether you don't, I don't care. I'm here to talk about what I like in crypto. So no, I'm not shilling and I haven't been paid. The chart behind me reflects the Wall Street cheat sheet we're all pretty well familiar with at this point, which tracks the different phases of emotions we go through in a crypto cycle, right from disbelief, hope, to optimism, to now where we are right now at belief, all the way up to euphoria. Now, we are in this little pocket in belief right now, and it feels like both Render and Near Protocol are at a point where they can't possibly go up even more. There's no way, right? We've missed the boat. Well, we haven't. And of course, in this video, I'm basically going to outline the reasons why. Now, both of these projects have that secret that I'm going to explain to you briefly now, but they also do have like a whole bunch of other reasons that will support them to gain the most in this first leg up. It's a whole bunch of different areas that they do really well in that is going to be the main premise or the main growth aspects of the bull run. So first of all, what is the secret? Well, I guess it is a secret, but really at the end of the day, I think a lot of people do know about this, but I don't think everyone does. The Nvidia GTC conference is coming up. They're talking about AI. They're talking about everything relating to, of course, Nvidia's focal points, basically just anything relating to GPUs. And so this is going to be really good for both these projects because both founders, right, Jules for Render and Ilya for Near, are speaking at two different panels, okay, by name. Actually, Ilya's mentioned on the homepage over here, speaking, of course, with the guys, as I mentioned to you momentarily, where he basically invented or brought to the masses a big part of the reasons why large language models are at the point they are today. So this guy's pivotal in this story, but I want to talk to you about Render first. And again, guys, I can't stress enough, it's so important to follow me over on Twitter. Links, of course, are down below because you get the information I talk about here hours, days, or sometimes even a week before I make a video on it. And so Jules, the founder of Render, has spoken on over 10 Nvidia conferences, right? This guy is good friends with Nvidia's founder. And of course, in life, it's not always what you know in terms of your technical ability, it's who you know, right? So the connection. So who knows what might come of this? And Jules has mentioned this is going to be the most important conference he has spoken at since the original one that he kind of introduced distributed rendering like all those years ago. I'm not telling you to buy the token by any stretch. Maybe the news is already priced in for both of these projects, so we can almost expect to dump at some point, but it's not the short term I'm really trying to emphasize here, it's the long term as well. This was taken from last year's GTC conference, where again, Jules introduced a few different aspects of the actual Render network itself, not a toy, the parent company, Render itself, mentioning a couple of their partners. Google is one of them, of course. Bringing A2 instances to Render is game-changing for ultra-high resolution production, machine learning, augmented rendering workflows, so on. This was quoted from one of the guys at Google Cloud. And also the other partner, Microsoft, right? We're thrilled to be a part of a toy's new render network and deliver enterprise-level hybrid GPU cloud rendering, so on. So, I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than this. And I don't think people realize that Render is very well connected. Now, of course, we do have Ilya speaking at this event as well in the Transforming AI section. Of course, again, him and the members he'll be on the panel with invented the transformer. So ChatGPT, the T in ChatGPT stands for transformer, which is a pivotal part of any large language model. Pretty much takes an input from the user and then analyzes that for the output, okay? It basically makes that connection real, and these guys invented it. So we'll see what comes from this. Either way, it's great exposure for Near Protocol if anything at all. So if there's going to be a sort of dump on the day of the news, I expect that to come from NIA and possibly a pump from Render. But again, I could be maybe just over speculating here. But the reason I've kind of introduced this original emotional chart was touching on this, because this aspect here, this pump we're about to have here, which I've touched on in last night's video, I really recommend you watch that video. These projects aren't just going to do well based on this overall AI narrative. They really do hit the other massive narratives that are going to underpin the growth for this cycle. Most notably, NIA hits these boxes, because how many of you that have purchased NIA protocol would have known that NIA would have pumped from AI? Hardly any. I mean, I hate being one of them guys that are like, I told you this ages ago. But like 3 or 4 months ago, in December of last year, I brought to you that NIA protocol would do well on AI. All right, it's all on the channel, it's all documented. And so, of course, Render does that as well, but also hits deep in. But it's not so much the fact that, hey, you know, NIA's over here hitting like 7 or 8 different narratives, which of course, the more you're exposed to, the more, I guess, overall growth you can possibly have. But it's also the focus that you have in those narratives as well. Now, of course, Render is a lot more focused on AI and DeepIn, as we've seen by just the 2 possible connections here, than the likes of NIA protocol is. NIA benefits from being interoperability, modularity, layer 1, data availability, layer 2, ZKP, like all the rest of it. But again, Render hits these a lot harder individually. And so when you kind of pair this together, right, you pair this deep-seated exposure to many different narratives and also this hyper-focus into really 2 of the most powerful narratives in this space. I've ranked AI number 1, DeepIn number 2, gaming number 3. So Render's right up there. You're going to have a lot of, you know, buy pressure on this next leg we're going to find in the market. So that's what I'm sort of saying here. Don't be surprised to see Render at, you know, $100. Don't be surprised to see the NIA protocol at $60, $70, $80. This is all definitely possible with hundreds of billions of dollars being invested into these 2 projects respectively. So of course, looking at Render's chart, and we'll start here, it's very easy to feel like you've missed out. And again, I would never recommend, in any case, nothing ever financial advice, but buying the tops is never a smart move. And if you kind of zoom out and press all, it's kind of shocking to look at, okay? So if we kind of zoom in again, you're still on the micro, or at least more micro time scale, buying at the highest. So the price I was about to buy in at was going to be just under $10, about $9.50-ish, which we kind of almost hit down here on the recent dip. So I didn't execute my buy into Render because I'm a very, very strict person when it comes to buying. Again, very important, you follow me on Twitter. I cannot stress it enough. Take the time to pause this video and go and do that now. So I put this post out a few days ago now, and I touched on a few reasons why, of course, Render is going to do really well, and specifically the distributed rendering area and also AI, okay? So some of these things are, of course, Apple's getting into visuals, okay? So Apple and the whole, you know, connection with the toy, and I'll mention one of these in a second, with the likes of the Apple Vision Pro. I mean, Render is likely going to be leveraged at some point because of a toy. A toy is doing a fair bit, not specifically partnered with Apple, but dancing around Apple, basically doing a fair bit right now. And so you can only speculate something might happen in the future. Call me optimistic, maybe. Cloud services as well, as the cloud begins to grow and as decentralized cloud alternatives, you know, take precedence over the centralized one, Render is right there to support that migration. Also, GPUs and computer chips on a big supply shortage. It's coming down to minerals. There's only so much minerals we have in the ground. It's finite, right? So, of course, there's going to be a point in time where you need to leverage the idle GPUs for things like rendering. I mean, these things are becoming more important. Of course, Render is like right on the cusp of a really big migration happening here, which makes it also a very good long-term hold as well. There's been 2 massive improvement proposals or governance proposals on Render. One of them is this, the 007 with FedML. These guys are looking to incorporate a sort of a marketplace where developers can come and build on FedML, creating these large language models and other generative AI applications to tap into Render's distributed network to help, I guess, build and, you know, basically run these large language models, which is super important, bringing the AI community demand to Render and also allowing Render to support this new economy. The subsequent partnership was with Nasana, and this was another really big one as well. Nasana is a DeepIn project that's looking to pretty much be a marketplace between people wanting to leverage sort of GPU marketplace and tap into and build their large language models and anything relating to AI. And of course, on the other side of that, with Render, who offers this stuff as a service, And they're looking to solve three important things, right? GPU shortages, of course, which, again, we kind of spoke about momentarily there. Idle compute issues, which is a big problem, okay? There's a lot of untapped potential out in the world. I think even with mobile devices, if we just pull like 100 million devices, I'm going to say just 100 million, together, you can pretty much run a very complex LLM on top of it, and also high public cloud pricing, which is very true. I mean, Amazon Web Service, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, these things charge a lot of money to run on top of them, which you kind of think would not be correct. You'd think decentralized would be more expensive because of the trade-off, but actually no. These centralized guys keep increasing the price because they can. Now, again, I said before, the parent company of Render, a toy, is dancing around Apple. Now, again, nothing official just yet, but with the inception of the Apple Vision Pro headset, I think as time progresses, we're going to have to leverage something like Render to create this metaverse. So all in all, the Render network was leveraged in some capacity to render some of the jobs relating to something that launched exclusively on the headset marketplace called the Archive. Now, the Archive is basically about 2 hours of Star Trek spatial experiences, okay? So you can see some of the job work over here, and if I play this, it kind of does show you a little bit of what it's like. It's pretty cool. I'm not a Star Trek fan myself, but it's just, I guess, a step in the door for the likes of, a toy to leverage the Render network. Some of these companies require proof of concept, and I think we're a bit past that point right now for Render. But battle testing the network with something like this, again, for that headset, is going to open the doors for a lot of demand based on where we're, of course, going. Now, this is all propagated, and I guess the network effects for Render is really pushed so far, hard and fast because of the toy, right? The parent company has some massive advisors, again, ex-Google CEO, CEO current of Endeavor, ex-CEO of IBM, the co-founder of Mozilla, all right? So this is massive, and of course, the connections toys already made in the real world, and therefore, the use for the Render network is immediately going to be apparent like we're seeing here, rather than having to prove itself worthy of these bigger connections. I don't want to spend too much time talking about the deflationary part of the token as well, but I do want to at least mention it, guys. They have released a burn and mint equilibrium, which pretty much just means as the network is being leveraged in this process, you can see here, which is completely decentralized, it's going to force people to use the Render token over time and will allow the token to eventually become deflationary and incentivize new developers to actually use their token itself rather than always paying in USD. I actually love this very simple but very effective flywheel. In the last 3 months, Render's been averaging about 2.5 million daily active interactions from the likes of Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, and so on. So there's a lot of demand happening here for Render. We see that other large projects are at a similar sort of interaction count, okay? So it's just a gauge as to say that if there is any big event or surprise that was to be announced, that immediately there's going to be a lot of traction happening. Now, NIA's no exception to the rule of being pumped from this Nvidia conference. I believe most of this price action in the last month was a direct reason from the announcement Ilya is presenting. But like I said, it's spread across a lot of very powerful narratives. In my opinion, it's S tier. It's right up there with the biggest and best in the space because, again, it's just going to blow up a lot from many different growth areas in the bull run. So I want to take our attention to three very important parts of NIA that I'm going to touch more on now. This was actually a bit of a screen grab from a presentation I did about 4 months ago on NIA explaining why I think the project's going to blow up. Now, one of them has already come true, which is the fact that they're focusing on AI. So this is Ilya, the co-founder, presenting. And he, again, was a big part in actually creating the transformer part of neural networks used in these large language models. They're creating a sort of similar thing to what Render's doing, which is a sort of marketplace where people can leverage idle GPUs, but rather than leveraging idle GPUs, people using this marketplace are leveraging idle minds. People that know how to solve problems in AI are being sort of paired up with people looking to build these for a price, right? And it makes a lot of sense. Someone who's an expert at something might want to use this for their full-time job to help businesses. NIA's just a middleman like Airbnb, for example. This is a really big unlock. You might not think it is. Oh, it's just a marketplace for people to connect. Well, aren't the best things created when people connect on these sort of jobs? Also, Horizon is prospering. Horizon is basically a launch pad for founders to accelerate their Web3 growth. To reduce the barrier to entry for developers in the real world, you have to have an easy-to-use developer kit, so it has to be quite familiar so there's no barrier to entry, but also, wouldn't it make a lot of sense if you could just pass on some work to someone who already knows how to solve it? And I believe this is part of the reason why NIA has had one of the highest inflows of new developers in the space over the last 12 months. NEAR is roughly about number 9 on this list. And yes, other networks like Polkadot, Arbitrum, Cosmos, Binance, Solana, these do overtake it, but still, the fact that there's thousands of projects out there and NEAR is number 9 has to tell you something about why people want to come and build on the network. It all comes down to the flywheel, guys. If you know the channel, you know I talk about this a lot. This is what underpins the growth long-term of a crypto layer 1 project. To have third-party developers come and build applications, that's what ultimately creates a strong community. Utility creates the community. Without this actually being implemented for the long term, I mean, you can build, a community based on the idea of the project, but long term, you have to have substance. It has to be used for something, otherwise it's going to die off. Hence why there's about 240 projects built already on NEAR protocol and a total of 750. So most of those are in the works, 1.1 million active accounts, 26 million total accounts, and almost $600 million raised. This is actually old news. It's a lot more expanse now. And not just that, what you have to factor in as well is these big announcements, these big upgrades that make people want to FOMO in. Hence why the announcement of Ilya speaking at the GTC was such a big thing for the price of NEAR protocol. People just don't seem to factor this in. So what we have here is the biggest upgrade coming to NEAR protocol in this late part of 2024 / possibly early 2025 in this Nightshade upgrade, which basically makes NEAR protocol NEAR protocol. This phase 2 of sharding is to still happen. It was pushed back to this quarter and will probably be finalized in quarter 2. And phase 3 is dynamic resharding, which allows the network to dynamically move around different applications on different shards, which makes it extremely decentralized. And I don't think any other protocol reshards the actual applications, which means that there's no congestion on the network. I could be wrong, but this is big. This is what makes NEAR protocol NEAR protocol. Boil yourself down to a few sentences and imagine you saying to the world, hey, that actually isn't finalized just yet. That's still going to happen, if that makes sense. Overall, NEAR protocol has about 1.6 million daily active interactions. So you can see that this is like 2x the actual market cap of Render, and yet Render is beating the daily active interactions. So that should go and show you how amazing and undervalued Render still is for the size of the project, but it shouldn't take away from NEAR protocol either. This project has a lot of room to grow, and I think once people latch onto it after these announcements, it's just going to blow up. I mean, you can already see how far it's come, being about, 2 billion market cap earlier this year to now being about 8 billion. It's insane. The moral of the story is this next leg up for both of these coins is going to be massive, and you have to really be paying attention to what is announced on both of the projects, which is why you should follow me on Twitter again. I will be announcing as these things progress, because that's how you can take advantage of a very quick low and sell high event, and then of course compound all your gains on a multi-year cycle, selling all in 2025, buying back in the lows of 2028, the next bear market, and then reselling in the next bull market to maximize your overall returns. Even if you decide to buy high, you can start with very little and actually make a lot of money if you just do a multi-cycle compounding plan. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.